The morning fog rolled through Ironwood Cemetery like the ghosts of decisions that could never be unmade. General Declan Ironwood stood before a granite headstone, his prosthetic leg aching in the damp October air, a reminder that some wounds never truly heal. 12 years. 12 years since Catherine had drawn her last breath in his arms, her final words still echoing in the hollow spaces of his chest. The inscription was simple: Catherine Rose Ironwood, beloved Luna, devoted mother. The stonemason had suggested more elaborate wording, but Declan had refused. Catherine had never been one for flourish. She had been steel-wrapped in silk, a warrior queen who had chosen a broken soldier and never once regretted the choice. Or so he had believed, before the curse took her, before her skin had turned gray and her eyes had filmed over with something ancient and hungry. Declan knelt, ignoring the protest of his damaged knee, and placed a single white lily against the stone. It was their tradition, one he had maintained alone for 12 years now. Every Thursday morning before dawn, before the world woke to its endless demands, this was his time with her, his penance, his prayer to a God he no longer believed in. The claw marks caught his attention as he stood. 4 deep gouges in the granite, fresh, the stone dust still pale against the weathered surface. His hand moved instinctively to his hip, finding empty air where his service weapon had once rested. The marks were deliberate, the spacing precise. Someone with considerable strength had carved a message into his dead mate's grave. The envelope tucked beneath the lily caught the weak morning light. Heavy cream paper, sealed with red wax bearing the council's signet. Declan's jaw tightened as he broke the seal. General Ironwood, the curse has returned. Your son is the only one who can see it. Report to council chambers immediately or face charges of treason and willful endangerment of the pack. This is not a request. Magistrate Elder Thorne. Your son is the only one who can see it. Finn. The boy he had not seen in 7 years except in photographs and brief stilted video calls arranged by social workers. The son he had sent away to Redstone Military Academy at age 10 because looking at him was like staring into a mirror that reflected every failure. The drive to Redstone took 4 hours through territory that had once been wild. Declan kept the windows down despite the cold, needing the bite of wind to keep memories at bay. But memories were relentless, especially for a man with too much time and too many regrets. Catherine had fallen ill when Finn was 4. The healers called it exhaustion at first, then stress, then finally admitted they had no name for what was consuming her from inside. The curse manifested slowly. Catherine would forget words mid-sentence, stare at her hands as if they belonged to someone else. Her hair dulled, her skin took on a grayish pallor. Within 6 months, she was bedridden. Within 8, she was screaming in languages that predated written history. Within 10, she was gone. And 5-year-old Finn had watched it all, had sat by his mother's bedside and drawn pictures while she deteriorated, had asked questions no child should have to ask. The trauma had changed him, or perhaps revealed what had always been there. The boy who emerged from Catherine's death was strange, unreachable, trapped in patterns only he could perceive. For 2 years, Declan had tried to reach his son, tried to be both father and mother, tried to hold together a pack that was fracturing under the weight of losing their Luna. He had failed at all of it. When Finn was 7 and still barely verbal, still destroying his room in systematic patterns no one understood, still screaming when touched or overwhelmed, Declan had made a choice. Redstone Military Academy, structure, discipline, the kind of environment that had saved Declan himself once. It had been the wrong choice. He had known it even then, had seen it in Elena's disapproving silence, in the way Finn had not fought or cried when packed into the car, just gone limp and empty. But Declan had not known what else to do with a son whose mind worked in ways he could not comprehend. Redstone Military Academy rose from the landscape like a monument to order. Gray stone walls, geometric precision, a flag snapping in the wind above gates designed to keep chaos out. Colonel Vance met him in the main office with the expression of a man about to amputate a limb. "Your son has been expelled," the colonel said without preamble. "Third violent incident in 3 months. We cannot house a student who poses a danger to himself and others." Declan's alpha presence flared instinctively, a ripple of power that made the colonel's wolf whine submission. "Define violent incident," he said quietly, and the temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. The colonel slid a file across the desk, incidents documented in clinical language. October 3rd, Cadet Ironwood struck another student, breaking his jaw. September 21st, destroyed the common room, 8,000 in damages. September 9th, found in secure area having bypassed locks, drawing symbols on walls in his own blood. Where is he now? Declan asked. Isolated, sedated after he became agitated during inspection. The colonel's voice was carefully neutral. General Ironwood, I served under you during the border war. I know combat. What I see in your boy's eyes is different. He needs help we cannot provide. The discipline barracks smelled of disinfectant and desperation. Finn sat on a cot, back to the door, drawing on the concrete floor with a stub of pencil. The symbols covered every surface, meticulous and obsessive. The boy had grown in 7 years, all awkward angles and dark hair falling into amber eyes that had once been Catherine's. Finn, Declan said. The pencil stopped. For a long moment, only silence. Then Finn spoke, voice flat and toneless. You came. Not for me. For whatever they think I can do for them. He turned, and Declan felt the impact of his gaze like a physical blow. The boy looked exhausted, hollowed out, but his eyes were sharp with intelligence most people never recognized. Scars latticed his forearms, self-inflicted wounds that made Declan's chest constrict. What are you drawing? Declan asked, because he did not know how else to begin. Finn glanced at the symbols, the spread pattern. It moves through bloodlines but jumps sometimes. I have been trying to predict the next manifestation. How long have you been able to see it? Since Mom died. At first I thought everyone could. When I told the healers, they said I was hallucinating, so I stopped telling. But I could not stop seeing it. Finn met his eyes directly. It is in you too, Dad. Just threads, thin ones, early stage. But the curse is already taking root. The words should have terrified him. Instead, Declan felt something unlock in his chest. His son was not broken. His son was seeing something real, something everyone else had missed. You have been alone with this for 7 years. Alone is very loud, Finn said simply. Declan knelt despite his screaming knee. I should have listened. Should have tried harder to understand. I am sorry, Finn. For all of it. Finn's hands stilled on the pencil, surprise flickering across his face. You are apologizing. No one apologizes. They just medicate or punish. I am not medicating or punishing. Declan pulled out a brick of clay from his bag, something Elena had insisted he bring. I am asking you to teach me what you see, and I am offering you this because your mother used to sculpt when she needed to think. Finn took the clay tentatively, touched its surface. It is soft, he said, wonder in his voice. I can shape it. You can do whatever you want with it. There is no wrong way. The boy's fingers sank into the clay, and his shoulders dropped fractionally. For the first time in the conversation, he looked his age, 17 and exhausted and desperately needing someone to see him clearly. Can we leave? He asked quietly. Can we go home? Yes, Declan said, we can go home. The drive back to Ironwood Estate was quiet, but not empty. Finn worked clay between his palms, shaping and reshaping, his breathing gradually evening out. Declan found himself narrating the passing landscape, telling Finn about pack business, about the territory, filling the silence with information because words of comfort had never been his strength. As they turned onto the estate drive, Finn spoke. I know you sent me away because you did not know what to do with me. I know I reminded you of losing Mom, and I know I am different in ways that scared you. Declan's hands tightened on the wheel. Yes, he said, because lying would be worse, to all of it. But different does not mean broken, and I should have known that sooner. The words are easy, Finn observed. The actions are harder. Then watch my actions, Declan said, starting now. Elena waited on the front steps as they pulled up, her expression carefully neutral, in the way of people who had perfected the art of witnessing without judging. She descended toward them, and when she saw Finn emerge from the truck, something softened in her face. Young master, she said, welcome home. Your room is prepared, and I took the liberty of stocking modeling clay in several colors. I keep records, you see. I remember what helps. Finn looked at her, then at the clay in his hands, then back at her. You remembered. I remember everything's important, Elena said simply. Now come inside. You both look half dead, and I have food prepared. Inside the study, a woman stood at the window, backlit by afternoon sun. When she turned, Declan felt recognition slam through him like a bullet. Sarah. Lieutenant Sarah Ashford, who he had left behind enemy lines 10 years ago during the border war, who had spent 5 years as a prisoner before being exchanged, broken and cursed and barely alive. 10 years, he said quietly. I volunteered. Her voice was different than he remembered, harder and stripped of warmth. When I heard about the Ironwood curse, when I heard about your son, I volunteered. The scars traced up her left arm, disappearing beneath her sleeve. Torture scars, the kind that spoke of prolonged suffering. She was 42 now, but carried the weight of centuries in eyes that should have been younger. An Omega who had survived what should have killed her. Why, Declan asked, why volunteer to help me? Not for you, Sarah said flatly. For him. She looked past Declan to where Finn stood in the doorway, still clutching his clay. Because I read the files. I know what he has been through. And no child should suffer for their parents' failures. I am not a child, Finn said quietly. I am 17. Sarah studied him with the intensity of someone who missed nothing. You see the curse. The reports say you map it in real time. I see the threads, Finn confirmed, the connections, how it spreads and where it is going next. Then we need you, Sarah said. The council has determined that manifestation will occur on your 18th birthday. Full activation of the curse across all Ironwood bloodline carriers. That is 843 people. If we cannot find a way to break the curse before then, they all die. The numbers settled like lead in Declan's gut, but he kept his expression neutral. What are the contingency plans? The council will execute every carrier before manifestation to prevent spread, Sarah said. Genocide disguised as prevention. We have 6 months. Finn's hands clenched around the clay, and if we succeed, then everyone lives, and I break the curse that is killing me too, Sarah said bluntly. My captors bound their magic to the Ironwood strain. Your family curse feeds mine. Break one, break both. The revelation changed everything. This was not altruism, but survival, mutual benefit dressed as rescue. Declan found himself respecting her more for the honesty. Then let us begin. What do you need? From Finn, cooperation. Training will be intensive, Sarah said. From you, General, I need you to not interfere when things become difficult. Can you handle watching your son in pain for the mission? I spent 30 years making those decisions, Declan said. I can handle it. We will see, Sarah replied, and something in her tone suggested she had heard that promise before and watched it break. After Sarah left for her quarters, Declan found Finn in Catherine's garden, sitting among roses she had planted before dying. The boy was sculpting, creating a miniature version of the estate with meticulous precision. Throughout the clay structure, thin threads of darker material wound like veins through every building. That is what you see, Declan observed. Finn nodded. Everyone with Ironwood blood has them. He scraped away the outer layer of his miniature self, revealing solid darkness inside. Mine are different. I think I am not infected. I think I am the infection, or maybe the cure. Declan knelt beside his son. Can I help? With the mapping. Pattern recognition was my specialty in tactical analysis. Finn looked at him with those two old eyes. I do not know if you can help, but I have been alone for 7 years. Maybe not alone would be different. Then let us try different, Declan said. He picked up clay, began shaping without thinking. What emerged was crude, a figure missing a leg, shoulders bowed. That is how you see yourself, Finn observed clinically. Broken. That is what I am. No. Finn took the figure, studied it. You are adapted. Lost does not mean broken. It means changed. Clay is still clay regardless of shape. The wisdom from his 17-year-old son stopped Declan's breath. When did you become so wise? Mom taught me to see patterns, Finn said quietly. Patterns in shape, in words, in how people move through the world. You move like someone carrying weight that is not distributed properly. But weight can be strength if you learn how to balance it. They worked in silence as the sun set, father and son, shaping clay and mapping invisible curses. Inside, Sarah stood at the window watching them, her hand pressed against cold glass. Her Omega instincts were screaming, recognizing the alpha power in Declan, even diminished by injury and retirement. Her wolf stirred for the first time in 5 years, whispering the word that changed everything. Mate. It was inconvenient, this recognition, this soul-deep pull toward a man who had abandoned her to enemy torture. But wolves did not choose mates based on logic. They chose based on the universe's certainty that these two souls belonged together regardless of history. Sarah pressed her scarred palm flat against the window. She would save the boy because it saved herself. She would work with Declan because the mission required it. And she would ignore the mate bond forming whether she wanted it or not, because hope had been tortured out of her in that underground cell, and trusting an alpha again felt more dangerous than any curse. But her wolf kept singing mate with every heartbeat, and Sarah knew that ignoring instinct this deep was impossible. The bond would form. The only question was whether she would let it destroy her when Declan inevitably chose duty over her again. She carved protection wards into her doorframe that night, symbols for clarity and resistance, protection from external threats, resistance to internal ones, like the dangerous pull toward an alpha who had already proven he would leave when staying became difficult. She carved the symbols deep and told herself they would be enough. They would have to be, because the alternative, opening herself to a bond that could shatter her more thoroughly than 5 years of torture, was unthinkable. But unthinkable did not mean impossible. It just meant she was not ready to acknowledge what her wolf already knew with absolute certainty. Declan Ironwood was her mate, had been since she met him 20 years ago, had remained through abandonment and agony. The bond had waited with inhuman patience for them both to be ready. And whether Sarah accepted it or not, whether Declan even recognized it yet, the bond was waking. Inexorable as gravity, inescapable as breathing. By the time the curse was broken, one way or another, the mate bond would have claimed them both. The only question was whether they would survive it. Dawn came cold and unforgiving. Declan woke in the chair outside Finn's room, his prosthetic locked from the knight's position. He worked the joint manually, each grinding rotation a reminder of flesh he would never get back, and pushed himself upright. Through the gap in Finn's door, he saw the boy at his desk, still awake or awake again. Symbols covered every wall now, flowing across surfaces like living mathematics. Finn's hands moved across fresh paper, documenting progressions only he could perceive. Coffee pulled Declan toward the kitchen. Elena poured without comment, gestured to breakfast already prepared. Her efficiency was the kind built over decades of service, but her eyes held something sharper this morning. Concern, perhaps, or evaluation. Lieutenant Ashford has been in the training hall since 0400, Elena said. That woman has the look of someone preparing for war. We are at war, Declan replied, just a different kind. Elena cracked eggs with more force than necessary. Master Finn will need to eat before training. He forgets when focused. You will need to remind him. That is not strategy, General. That is being present. The training hall occupied the East Wing, a space Catherine had commissioned when Finn was born. Declan had avoided it for 12 years, unable to face another monument to futures that never arrived. Now Sarah stood at its center, moving through combat forms with deadly precision, despite the tremor in her scarred hands. She did not stop when he entered, just continued her pattern. Strike, pivot, strike. Working something out in muscle and motion the way soldiers did when thoughts got too loud. You are staring, she said without looking. Observing, Declan corrected. There is a difference. Sarah completed her sequence, held her final stance for 3 controlled breaths, then straightened. When she turned, sweat glistened on skin marked by survival. 8 hours until we begin with Finn. I want him rested, fed, and mentally prepared. Prepared for what? For pain, Sarah said flatly. Training means interfacing directly with the curse, forcing engagement with something he has only observed. It will hurt. He is 17, Declan started. He is 17 and carrying a death sentence, Sarah cut him off. Unpleasant is relative when the alternative is genocide. I need to know now if you can handle watching him struggle without interfering. Declan moved deeper into the hall. I spent 30 years making impossible decisions. I can handle this. Watching soldiers is different than watching your son, Sarah said, and something in her voice suggested hard-won experience. The people who tortured me understood that physical pain has limits. Emotional pain, watching someone you care about suffer, that has no bottom. She turned away, began checking equipment. They made me watch others first before they started on me. That was worse than anything they did to my body. The revelation hung between them, another piece of the nightmare she had survived. Is that what they did for 5 years? Among other things, Sarah said. But Payne and I reached an understanding eventually. It could break my body but not my mind. That stayed mine. She looked at him directly. "Can you say the same about watching Finn hurt?" "Yes," Declan said, then more honestly, "I will have to." "Good enough," Sarah acknowledged. "Then we both train him. You teach combat and tactical thinking. I teach curse manipulation. Between us, maybe we create something that can survive what is coming." Finn appeared at exactly 0600, punctual in the way of people who found comfort in predictable structure. He stood in the doorway taking in the space, the equipment, the two warriors waiting for him. His hands sought his pockets, kneading clay that was not there. Declan retrieved a brick from the storage closet without comment, tossed it across the mat. Finn caught it reflexively, and visible tension left his frame as his fingers found familiar texture. "We are going to train you," Sarah said without preamble. "Combat, strategy, and curse manipulation. You have 6 months to become proficient enough to face full manifestation. That is not much time, but it is what we have." "I know," Finn said quietly, already working the clay. "I have been counting down since Mom died. Every day is one day closer." "To what comes next?" Declan finished. "What comes next is you learning to fight. The curse took your mother because we did not understand it. You have an advantage we did not. You can see it. Now we teach you to break it." Finn's hands stilled. "You think it can be broken?" "Everything can be broken," Sarah answered. "Magic follows rules. Your ability to visualize curse architecture means you can find structural weaknesses. But first, you need to learn what touching it feels like." She gestured to the center of the mat. "Come here. Show me what you see when you look at me." Finn approached slowly, stopping 3 feet away. His eyes unfocused, and his breathing changed, became shallow. His free hand lifted, fingers tracing invisible patterns in the air. "You have threads," he said. "Dark ones, thicker than Dad's. They move differently, though. His are passive, growing slowly. Yours are active, fighting something." Burning themselves out trying to contain, he tilted his head. "There is something else. Something older than the Ironwood curse." "The curse I carry from captivity," Sarah confirmed, her voice carefully steady. "It feeds on your family's curse, uses it as fuel. Breaking one potentially breaks both. Can you touch the threads?" Finn's hand moved closer, fingers still tracing. When his fingers made contact with something Declan could not see, Sarah gasped. Her whole body went rigid, but she held her ground. "Cold," Finn whispered. "It is so cold and hungry. It wants to consume. That is its purpose." "Keep going," Sarah gritted out. "Tell me what else." "There is a center, a core, where threads connect." Finn's voice was distant now, absorbed. "In you, it is near your heart. In Dad, it is in his leg, the prosthetic, using the trauma site as anchor." Declan looked at his artificial limb, the machinery that kept him mobile. The curse was literally embedded in his adaptation to loss. "Can you disrupt it?" Sarah asked through clenched teeth. "Break the thread." "I can," Finn said, "but it will hurt you." "Do it anyway." Finn's hand twisted, and Sarah screamed. It was raw and primal, the sound of something being torn at the cellular level. She collapsed to her knees, arms wrapped around her chest, body convulsing. Declan was moving on instinct, ready to intervene, but Sarah's hand shot out. "Do not!" she gasped. "Let him finish." "I am sorry," Finn whispered, but his hand remained steady. His training, years of being told to complete tasks despite distress, kept him focused. He pulled sharply, and something broke with an almost audible snap. Sarah collapsed completely, gasping on the mat. For a long moment, only her ragged breathing filled the space. Then slowly she pushed herself upright, examining her hands with wonder. "The tremor is gone," she said. "I can breathe fully for the first time in 5 years." She looked at Finn with something like awe. "You severed the feeding pattern. My curse cannot sustain itself without your family's curse as fuel." "Which means," Declan said slowly, "if Finn can break individual threads, he might break the entire network." "Not might," Sarah corrected, her eyes bright with something dangerously close to hope. "Can. We just need to find the core origin point and teach him to unravel it." From that moment, training began in earnest. Sarah taught curse theory, the history of magical bindings, architectural weak points. Declan focused on physical conditioning, building the endurance required for sustained curse work. And Finn, brilliant and determined, absorbed everything with the focus of someone who understood exactly what failure would cost. The days blurred into routine: dawn combat drills, morning curse theory, afternoon physical training, evening strategic planning. Finn grew stronger, his thin frame developing muscle, his movements gaining confidence. But more than physical change, something else was shifting. The frightened boy was giving way to someone harder, more focused, a weapon being forged in necessity's fire. 3 weeks into training, Garrett arrived unannounced. Declan heard the engine before seeing the truck, recognized it instantly. His former second-in-command had not changed much, still built solid, still moving with combat precision, but his eyes were different, colder. "General," Garrett said, the title formal and flat. "Sergeant," Declan returned, "what brings you?" "I heard about the boy," Garrett said without preamble. "About what he can do. I needed to see for myself before reporting to the council." They met in Catherine's old study, the walls lined with pack history and maps that charted territory won and held through generations. Garrett examined everything with the critical eye of someone looking for weaknesses. "The council is talking," Garrett said finally, "not just about the curse, about what happens after. If the boy can break curse threads, manipulate magical bindings at fundamental levels, he becomes something other packs will want to control or eliminate. Then we make sure he is protected," Declan said. "How?" Garrett turned on him. "You are retired, crippled, living in a house full of ghosts. Ashford is dying. The boy is brilliant but broken and completely unprepared for what is coming. How do you protect him when the council decides he is too dangerous to live?" "The same way I protected people under my command," Declan said quietly, "by being willing to go further than the enemy expects." Garrett's expression shifted. "You actually care about him, the son you sent away." "I always cared," Declan said. "I just failed at showing it. Now I'm trying to do better." "Show me," Garrett said. "Show me what makes him worth the risk." The demonstration took place in the lower levels, in Catherine's old magical workshop. Sarah set up a level 5 curse matrix, a training construct designed to mimic lethal bindings without actually killing. It hung in the air like malevolent spider webbing, dark energy pulsing. "This would take me 8 hours to dismantle safely," Sarah explained. "Finn, show the sergeant what you can do." Finn approached the construct, eyes already tracking invisible architecture. His hands came up, fingers moving through air, tracing connections. "It is like a knot," he said. "Complex but logical. Pull here, this section collapses, creating slack here, which allows access to the core." His hands moved faster, more confident. The curse matrix began unraveling. Threads dissolved, power bled away, and within 90 seconds the entire construct had been reduced to harmless residue. Garrett stared, professional composure cracking. "That is impossible." "That is Finn," Sarah said. "And that was a practice construct. I have seen him dismantle active curses in half that time. He understands their architecture and takes them apart." "The council will kill him," Garrett said flatly. "They cannot allow this level of power to exist outside their control." "Then the council miscalculates," Declan said. "Because 800 people die if Finn fails. Is the council prepared to execute 800 to eliminate one threat?" "They have done worse," Garrett said, and the weight of shared history hung between them. Operations neither man wanted to remember. Orders that had crossed lines they had not known existed until too late. "Then help us," Declan said. "Help make sure this time we choose right over expedient." Garrett was quiet, clearly running calculations, weighing loyalties. When he spoke, his voice was rough. "I lost my son to council decisions. 16 years old, neurodivergent. They deemed him unstable, a risk to pack cohesion. I was ordered to," he could not finish, just looked at Finn with profound regret. "I followed orders," Garrett continued. "I was a good soldier, and my boy died because I did not question. So no, General, I will not help eliminate another child for being different." He straightened, rendered a formal salute. "Permission to join your operation, whatever it takes to keep your son alive." Declan returned the salute, felt something loosen in his chest. "Permission granted. Welcome back to the fight." That night, the core team gathered in the study. Declan, Sarah, Finn, Garrett, and Elena, who refused exclusion despite not being military. Maps covered the table showing curse progression, council facilities, potential safe routes if they needed to run. "We have 4 months," Sarah said, marking the calendar. 4 months to find the origin point and teach Finn to break it at the source. Everything else is secondary. "The origin point," Garrett said. "Where do we start?" "The answer is in family history," Finn said, pulling out a leather-bound journal. "Mom's research. She knew she was dying, knew it was the curse, so she investigated its source. This is what she found." He opened to Catherine's elegant handwriting. The curse originated 200 years ago. Our ancestor hired a dark mage to create magic that would eliminate what he saw as genetic weakness. Neurodivergent shifters, anyone whose mind worked differently. But curses turn on their creators, Finn continued. The mage bound the curse to our bloodline itself. Every seventh generation full manifestation, attempted extermination. We are fighting our ancestors' bigotry, Sarah said flatly. The mage who created it, Garrett asked. Any records? Mom found references to a name, Finn said carefully. Magistrate Thorn. The room went silent. Declan felt ice spread through his veins. Thorn is 300 years old, Sarah said slowly, which means he created the curse. And he is the council head supposedly helping coordinate our response. We have been compromised from the start, Declan finished. Every piece of intelligence we shared, Thorn has known. If Thorn created this curse, Finn said, his hands shaking around his clay, then breaking it means killing him. And he is the most powerful mage alive. Then we become more powerful, Sarah said grimly. We train harder, fight smarter, and find a way to kill a 300-year-old mage before he completes his genocide. This is suicide, Garrett observed, going after a council elder. Probably, Declan agreed, but staying passive guarantees death. Fighting gives us a chance. Elena, silent until now, spoke. Master Finn, your mother left something else. She made me promise to give it to you when you were ready. She produced a sealed envelope. To my son, when the darkness comes. Finn broke the seal with trembling hands, read silently. When he finished, tears fell unchecked. He handed the letter to Declan without speaking. Declan read Catherine's final words to their son, felt his heart break and reform simultaneously. My dearest Finn, if you are reading this, the curse has returned. Do not be afraid. You have something I did not. You can see the enemy. That sight is your weapon and your burden. The world will not understand you, will fear you, will try to break you into comfortable shapes. Do not let them. Be exactly who you are. Your difference is not weakness. It is evolution. The curse targeted minds like ours because it recognized what we could become. Powerful enough to break it. Trust your father. He failed me, failed you, but he is trying now. That matters. Know that I love you. Dying was not abandonment. It was buying you time to grow strong enough to finish what I could not start. Break the curse. Save our family. But more than that, save yourself. Live fiercely and without apology. All my love, always. Mom. Your mother was right, Declan said, voice rough. About all of it. Especially about you being exactly who you need to be. Finn clutched the letter. We break the curse, he said. We kill Thorn if necessary. We save everyone we can. Agreed, Sarah said. Agreed, Garrett echoed. Elena nodded, and Declan saw Catherine's fierce protectiveness reflected in the housekeeper's eyes. This family would survive. Not because they were unbroken, but because they refused to let breaking be the end. Later that night, after strategic planning ended and everyone else had gone to sleep, Declan found Sarah on the east terrace. She stood in moonlight, and his alpha instincts surged at the sight of her. The mate bond was growing stronger, impossible to ignore now. You should be sleeping, she said without turning. So should you, he countered, moving to stand beside her. They stood in silence, two warriors with too many scars between them. Finally, Sarah spoke. I felt it today, during Finn's demonstration, your alpha presence responding to mine. The mate bond, Declan said quietly. I know what it is, Sarah said. I have been trying to ignore it since I arrived. And how is that working? Poorly, she admitted. My wolf recognizes you, has recognized you since I was 22, and you pulled me out of that firefight in the border territories. 20 years and a mate bond waiting. I left you, Declan said, in enemy hands for 5 years. You chose your dying mate over your missing soldier, Sarah corrected. I understand that choice. Would have made it myself. But understanding and trusting are different things. I cannot promise I will not fail you again, Declan said honestly. I can only promise I will try not to. Sarah finally turned to face him. The scars on her arms caught moonlight. Do you even want this? The bond. My wolf has been howling since you arrived, Declan said. Whether I want it or not seems irrelevant. The bond is forming. Sarah laughed, bitter and real. So we are both trapped by biology and fate. How romantic. It does not have to be a trap, Declan said carefully. It could be, he searched for words. It could be choice. Choosing each other despite history. I have spent 5 years learning not to trust, Sarah said. You are asking me to unlearn that. I am asking you to try, Declan said. Same thing I am asking Finn. Same thing I am asking myself. Just try. Sarah studied him for a long moment, evaluation in those scarred eyes. Then, deliberately, she stepped closer. Close enough that he could feel her warmth, smell the omega scent that made his wolf sing. If we do this, if we let the bond form, you do not get to leave again, she said. Not for duty, not for the mission, not for anything. Agreed, Declan said. And if you break that promise, if you abandon me again, I will make the torture I survived look gentle. I believe you, Declan said. Good, Sarah replied. She reached up, placed her hand against his chest, directly over his heart. Her omega magic recognized his alpha power, and the bond between them flared visible for just a moment. Gold threads winding between them, connecting, anchoring. This is insane, she whispered. Completely, Declan agreed, but sanity is overrated. She smiled then, real and unguarded, and Declan saw the woman she had been before captivity broke her. That woman was still there, buried under scar tissue and survival instinct, waiting for a reason to emerge. He wanted to be that reason. They stood together under starlight while the mate bond wove itself tighter, inexorable and absolute. It was not the passionate claiming of romance stories. It was quieter, deeper, the recognition of two souls who had orbited each other for 20 years, finally finding their gravity. Declan did not kiss her. That would come later, when trust had been built and earned. For now, he just held her hand, let his thumb trace the scars on her wrist, and promised himself that this time he would not fail. Inside, Finn watched from his window, saw his father and Sarah standing close, saw the way they leaned toward each other like planets in orbit. He shaped clay between his palms and allowed himself to hope that maybe, just maybe, broken things could still fit together and create something whole. 4 months until manifestation. 4 months to train, to fight, to become weapons sharp enough to kill a god. But tonight, there was this. Connection, family, the tentative beginning of trust. It would have to be enough. Because the alternative was unthinkable, and they had all survived too much to surrender now. 1 month remained. 1 month until Finn's 18th birthday, until full manifestation, until 800 people either lived or died based on the choices made in the next 30 days. The war room that had been Catherine's study bore no resemblance to its former elegance. Maps covered every surface, curse progression tracked on screens Elena had procured through connections no one questioned. Weapons lay in tactical arrangement. This was a command center now, stripped of sentiment, focused only on mission success. Declan stood at the window, watching dawn break over Ironwood Estate, coffee cold in his hand. Behind him, he sensed, rather than heard, Sarah enter. The mate bond between them had grown strong enough that he could feel her presence like warmth against his skin, even without looking. She moved to stand beside him, their shoulders touching. Neither spoke for a long moment, just existed in shared space the way they had learned to do over 3 months of training, planning, slowly building trust from rubble. Could not sleep, Sarah said finally. Too many scenarios running through my head. Most of them end badly. Most is not all, Declan replied. We have trained him well. Finn is ready. He is 17, Sarah said, and we are asking him to kill a mage powerful enough to create immortality curses. We are asking him to save 800 lives, Declan corrected. There is a difference. Is there? Sarah asked quietly. Or are we just better at justifying sending children to die than our enemies are? The question hung between them, uncomfortable and necessary. Declan turned to face her fully, saw his own doubts reflected in her scarred features. I do not know, he admitted, but I know that doing nothing guarantees genocide. Fighting gives us a chance. Sometimes a chance is all you get. Sarah leaned against him, let him take some of her weight. The mate bond pulsed between them, gold threads of connection that had woven deeper with every passing day. They had not completed the claiming, not formalized the bond, but it was there nonetheless, inevitable as gravity. If we die tomorrow, she said against his shoulder, I want you to know that these 3 months, training together, building something that looks like family, it has been the best time of my life. Better than anything before captivity. Better than I thought I deserved. Declan wrapped his arm around her, pulled her close. We are not going to die tomorrow. "You cannot promise that." "No," he agreed. "But I can promise that if we die having lived today. That is more than most people get." Behind them, Finn appeared in the doorway, already dressed for the day ahead, despite the early hour. He looked older than 17 now, harder. 3 months of intensive training had burned away boyhood, left behind someone who understood exactly what he was capable of and exactly what it would cost. "Garrett is ready when you are," Finn said. "He wants to run the infiltration sequence one more time." The model of council chambers covered half the training hall floor, built to scale with meticulous precision. Garrett stood beside it like a general surveying a battlefield, which was exactly what he was doing. "Walk me through it again," Declan said. Garrett pointed to the east entrance. "Finn creates resonance disruption here. 30-second window. Sarah and I go through first, neutralize immediate threats, establish beachhead. You and Finn follow. Sarah maintains ward disruption while Finn navigates us to inner sanctum using his curse sight." "And when we encounter resistance?" Declan asked, though he already knew the answer. "We go loud," Garrett said. "Speed and aggression. Overwhelm before they coordinate response. Once they know we are there, clock starts ticking." Finn was quiet, hands shaping clay, eyes tracking invisible patterns through the model. "The main ward anchor is 3 floors below the inner sanctum," he said. "If I sever it, the entire defensive network cascades, but it will alert Thorn immediately." "How long after alert?" Sarah asked. 2 minutes, Finn said. "Maybe 3. He will know exactly where we are and come with everything he has." "Then we make those minutes count," Declan said. "Garrett and Sarah hold the corridor. Nothing gets through. Finn and I go for the origin point. We break it, we run, we survive." "It is a terrible plan," Garrett observed. "It is the only plan we have," Declan said. "Better ideas are welcome." Garrett smiled grimly. "Just making sure you knew it was terrible. Acknowledging reality helps with surviving it." They drilled the sequence until muscle memory replaced conscious thought. Entry, movement, engagement, extraction. Every step timed, every contingency planned. Finn collapsed wards in his sleep now. Sarah could maintain multiple shields while staying mobile. Garrett's ammunition loads and backup protocols were rehearsed to perfection. And Declan tried to find words to tell his son he was proud, that watching Finn grow into his power had been the greatest privilege of his life. But words had never been his strength, so he fought beside Finn instead, matched his movements, learned to trust his son's instincts. Communication through action. It was not enough to erase 12 years of absence, but it was what he had. That evening, Elena insisted on proper dinner. The team gathered around Catherine's old table, and for a few hours they allowed themselves to be something other than soldiers preparing for war. Stories were shared. Garrett told tales of operations gone miraculously right. Sarah contributed accounts of curse breaking in distant territories. Even Finn opened up, sharing observations about curse architecture that were fascinating and horrifying in equal measure. "When did you know you were different?" Garrett asked Finn at one point. "I was 4, Finn said. Mom was reading me a bedtime story, and I could see the words taking shape in the air, forming patterns. I thought everyone saw that way. When I mentioned it, the healers said I was hallucinating, so I learned to stop mentioning what I saw." He looked around the table. "You all see surfaces. I see scaffolding underneath. It is not better or worse, just different." "Different saved my life," Sarah said. "Different is going to save 800 more. That seems valuable." "The council does not think so," Finn replied. "Thorn does not think so. They see different as threat." "You are not wrong," Declan said, his voice rough with emotion. "You are exactly who you are supposed to be. Anyone who cannot see that has impaired vision, not you." Finn's eyes shone, but he smiled. "Thanks, Dad." The simple word hit Declan with more force than any weapon. 3 months ago, Finn had barely looked at him. Now they were father and son in truth, not genetics but choice and effort. "Whatever happens tomorrow," Declan said, addressing everyone, "I want you to know this has been an honor. Fighting beside you, watching Finn become who he was meant to be. If we die tomorrow, we die having lived today." Garrett raised his glass. "To living today." They drank and allowed themselves peace before the storm. The assault was scheduled for 300 hours, the deadest part of night when even council guards would be least alert. They geared up in ritual silence, each person checking equipment with the precision of soldiers who understood that details determined survival. Finn wore lightweight tactical gear, hands-free for curse work. Sarah carried talismans, pre-charged wards, and a sidearm. Garrett armed himself for sustained combat. Declan checked his prosthetic one final time, made sure the connection was solid. Fighting on a bad leg was manageable. A leg that failed mid-combat was death. "Last chance to back out," Declan said. "No judgment." Nobody moved. They just looked at him with steady calm. People who had chosen and would not be swayed. "Then let us go kill a mage," Declan said. The drive to council chambers took 40 minutes through empty roads. Finn sat in back, eyes closed, consciousness already reaching ahead to map wards and find weaknesses. When they arrived 2 blocks from target, Finn opened his eyes and nodded. "It is exactly as the models showed. The resonance flutter is there. I can use it." "How long?" Sarah asked. 30 seconds once I start," Finn said. "Maybe 40 if lucky." They exited the vehicle, moved through darkness with practiced stealth. Council chambers loomed ahead, stone and intimidation, floodlights creating shadows perfect for infiltration. Guards patrolled in predictable patterns, meaningless to people trained to exploit routine. Finn stopped at the predetermined point, hands coming up, fingers moving through complex gestures. His breathing slowed, focus narrowing to the singular task of unraveling magic woven by far more experienced hands. The wards shimmered, fractured, and Finn gasped. "Now," he whispered. "Go now." Garrett moved first, fluid and fast, Sarah right behind. They disappeared through the breach. Declan heard suppressed weapons, blades finding flesh, then Garrett's voice in his earpiece. "Clear. Move." Declan and Finn went through, stepped over bodies still warm. Finn's face was pale but determined. He kept moving, kept focus on curse threads only he perceived, navigating them through corridors that twisted with deliberate confusion. Resistance came at the second checkpoint. 4 guards, alert and armed. Garrett dropped 2 before they reacted. Sarah's ward deflected return fire. Declan put controlled bursts into the remainder. The suppressed weapons were not silent, just quieter, and combat sounds would carry. Alarms wailed. Red emergency lighting flooded corridors. Stealth was over. "Double time," Declan ordered. "Finn, fastest route." Finn's eyes went distant, tracking invisible paths. Left at junction, down 3 flights, through archive, straight to sanctum. His voice was clinical, detached. "But Dad, there are guards everywhere now. 20, maybe 30 between us and target." "Then we go through them," Garrett said, already advancing. The firefight was brutal and efficient. Garrett and Sarah formed mobile barrier, advancing through opposition with ruthless precision. Declan stayed with Finn, covering his son's back, keeping him safe while the boy navigated and called out threats visible through walls via curse connections. They lost time fighting through the archive. Sarah took a round to her shoulder, impact spinning her, but she stayed upright, converted pain to fury. Her wards flared bright enough to blind. "Keep moving," she snarled. "I am fine." She was not fine, blood spreading dark, but there was no time for treatment. Only forward momentum. They hit the final corridor at a run, and doors to Thorne's inner sanctum stood before them, sealed with wards so dense they looked solid. "Finn, can you break it?" Declan asked. Finn's hands moved, fingers dancing through patterns that hurt to track. "It is anchored to the origin point itself. Breaking the door breaks the curse, but," he swallowed hard, "breaking the curse kills Thorne. They are symbiotic, the same thing. When Thorne dies," Finn continued, "the curse releases 200 years of stored energy. Every death, every manifestation, all that power at once. The blast radius is this entire building. We will not survive." The words settled like ash. Suicide mission confirmed. "How long after you break the door?" Sarah asked steadily despite blood loss. 30 seconds until cascade, Finn said. "Maybe a minute if the curse resists. Not enough time to evacuate." Declan looked at his team, these people who had followed him into hell without hesitation. "There is still time to run." Finn breaks the door. "We run. Let the curse kill Thorne. 800 people die, but we survive." "No," Finn said, voice stronger than Declan had ever heard it. 800 people live. That was always the mission. "The kid is right," Garrett said. "We did not come this far to fail because we were afraid of dying. Not everyone gets to choose what their death means." Sarah pressed her wounded shoulder. "I was dying anyway. At least this way it counts." Declan wanted to argue, wanted to find tactical solutions that saved everyone, but he had spent 30 years in command. He knew when situations had only one outcome. Sometimes the best you could do was make sure sacrifice mattered. He pulled Finn into fierce embrace, held his son tight. "I love you," he said. "I should have said it more, shown it better. But I love you, and I am so proud of who you became." Finn hugged back, face pressed against Declan's shoulder. "I love you too, Dad. Tell Mom when you see her. Tell her I finished what she started." "I will," Declan promised. Sarah stepped forward, and Declan pulled her close too, the three of them together. The mate bond between him and Sarah pulsed gold, incomplete but real. "If we had more time," he said to her. "I know," she replied. "Me too." Finn turned to the door, placed hands against wards burning with accumulated power. His fingers began moving, unraveling 200 years of malicious magic, deconstructing genocide one thread at a time. The door shuddered. Inside, movement. Thorn emerged, vital and powerful despite centuries, eyes blazing with barely contained magic. "You foolish children," Thorn said, voice resonant with authority. "You think you can undo what I built. The curse does not end, it evolves. I evolve with it." He raised hands, gathering curse energy dark and hungry, ready to unmake them. But Finn was faster. The boy's hands moved in pattern Declan had never seen. Something developed in secret, and curse energy Thorn was gathering suddenly reversed, flowed backward into the mage himself. Thorn's eyes widened in shock. "What have you done?" "I am neurodivergent," Finn said calmly, "which means I see patterns you cannot comprehend. I reversed flow. Your curse consumes its creator instead of victims. You wanted to purify bloodlines. Congratulations. You are about to become very pure, very dead." Thorn screamed, sound beyond human range, as 2 centuries of harvested death poured into him. His body began cracking, light bleeding through fissures in skin. "Everyone should say what they need to say," Finn announced, eerily calm. 30 seconds. Garrett looked at Declan. "It was an honor, General." "The honor was mine, Sergeant." Sarah smiled through pain. "I have no family except you people, so I am good." Finn turned to Declan. "Do you think it will hurt?" "Probably," Declan admitted. "But we will be together. That makes it better." The cascade hit critical mass. Thorn's body exploded into light and ash. The origin point, twisted knot of malevolence embedded in reality, began unraveling. Declan reached for Finn, pulled his son close, wrapped his body around the boy, determined that in this last moment he would be the father Finn deserved. The world went white. Then silence. Not death silence, but something shifting, reality reorganizing around new parameters. Declan opened his eyes, half expecting afterlife, and instead saw the inner sanctum intact. Thorn's ashes scattered across marble, his team standing exactly where they had been, breathing, bleeding, impossibly alive. "We should be dead," Finn said, pulling away to look around in confusion. Sarah laughed, half hysteria, half relief. The curse inverted. When Finn reversed flow, when Thorn consumed his own magic, it did not explode outward. It imploded, collapsed into itself, into nothing. We did not unmake the curse. We erased it retroactively. "Which means," Garrett said slowly, "anyone who was supposed to die from manifestation lives is still dead," Declan finished, understanding. "We did not resurrect the past, but we saved the future. 800 people all live." Finn swayed, legs giving out. Declan caught him, lowered them both to floor. The boy was crying, great racking sobs of relief and grief and exhaustion. "We did it!" Finn gasped. "Dad, we actually did it!" "You did it," Declan corrected, holding his son while he fell apart. "You broke a curse that killed your mother, threatened our bloodline, gave a monster 300 years of power. You did that. You saved us all." Outside, guards approached, confused shouts, sounds of organization trying to understand what happened to their leader. "We should go," Garrett said, "before they decide to blame us instead of thank us." They moved quickly, retracing paths through corridors filled with disoriented guards, too confused for effective resistance. They emerged into dawn, into clean air and golden light, and Declan breathed freedom, survival, the impossible gift of tomorrow. The extraction vehicle was waiting. They piled in, bloody and exhausted and alive. Garrett drove. Sarah slumped in passenger seat, holding pressure on her wound. Declan and Finn in back, just breathing, existing, processing survival. "What happens now?" Finn asked quietly. "Now," Declan said, "we figure out how to live in the world you just saved. We heal. We become the family we were always supposed to be. We make sure everyone knows neurodivergent minds are strengths, not weaknesses." "The Council will not just let this go," Finn said. "The Council will adapt or fail," Sarah replied weakly. With Thorn gone, Old Guard loses its anchor. New leadership will emerge. Maybe leadership that understands diversity, strengthens, rather than threatens. And if they do not, Garrett added, we make them understand. We have proof a neurodivergent 17-year-old did what centuries of traditional leaders could not. That is leverage. The estate appeared ahead, safety and familiar walls. Elena met them at the door, took one look at Sarah's wound, and immediately began organizing medical treatment with the efficiency of someone who had seen too many soldiers return broken. Later, after wounds treated and adrenaline crashed, after everyone collapsed into exhausted sleep, Declan found himself back in Catherine's garden. The roses bloomed wild and beautiful, exactly as she had planned before dying. Finn joined him silently, sat on the bench Catherine had loved. They did not speak for a long time, just existed in shared space while the world spun on, saved and unaware. "Do you think Mom would be proud?" Finn asked finally. "I know she would be," Declan said. "You did what she dreamed of. Broke the curse, saved the family, proved different is not less. That was her life's work. You finished it." Finn leaned against Declan's shoulder. "I miss her. I miss her too. Every day. But she is here, in this garden, in the strength you carry, in us sitting together instead of being strangers. She lives in what she left behind." Sarah appeared at the garden entrance, arm bandaged, looking steadier. She approached slowly, as if uncertain of welcome. Declan held out his hand. She took it, let him pull her down beside them. The three of them sat in Catherine's garden, surrounded by beauty she had cultivated, and Declan allowed himself to believe they were going to be all right. The curse was broken. The family was safe. He had a son who was brilliant and powerful and finally understood. He had a mate who had survived the unsurvivable and chosen to trust again. It was not the future he had planned. It was better. Because this future had been earned through pain and sacrifice and the hard work of becoming people worthy of second chances. 18 months later, Finn stood before the council as its youngest member at 19, not as alpha heir, but as special advisor on neurodivergent integration. He had grown into himself, confidence replacing uncertainty, his unique perception now recognized as gift rather than disorder. Declan watched from the gallery as his son addressed the council, laying out vision for a future where diversity of mind was valued as highly as diversity of form, where no child would be called broken for perceiving differently. "He looks like Catherine," Sarah said beside him, their mate bond now complete, formalized, unbreakable. Same fire, same refusal to accept injustice. "He has her strength," Declan agreed, "but his own path." "Are you proud?" Sarah asked. Declan watched Finn command the room, council members who had dismissed him now hanging on his words. "Prouder than I have ever been of anything," he said, "including myself." Sarah took his hand, scarred fingers intertwining with his. "We did good work, General. Saved a family, changed a culture, left the world better." "We did," Declan agreed, "but mostly him. Finn did the impossible because he refused to accept impossible as real." After the session, Declan found Finn on council chamber steps, looking out over territory now partly his responsibility to protect. Terrified, Finn admitted when asked how he felt. "Exhilarated, confused whether I know what I am doing." "That sounds right for leadership," Declan said. "Your mother felt that way every day. The difference between good and bad leaders is not confidence. It is caring enough to be scared of getting it wrong." They stood together on the steps, and Declan saw the future spread before them, uncertain but full of possibility. Finn would make mistakes, face opposition, struggle with a world still learning to understand minds like his. But he would not face it alone. "Thank you," Finn said, "for coming back, for trying even when you did not know how, for being my dad." "Thank you for giving me the chance," Declan replied, "for letting me learn, for being patient with a broken old soldier who forgot how to be a father." "You are not broken," Finn said, echoing old words. "You are adapted, and you are exactly the father I needed." They walked down the steps together, and behind them council chambers stood as testament to what was possible when people refused to accept different meant less. Declan Ironwood had been many things: soldier, general, husband, father. He had failed more often than succeeded, but in the end, the thing he was most proud of was learning to see his son clearly, to value difference over conformity, to understand that admitting you did not have answers was often the bravest thing you could do. The last alpha's legacy was not bloodline or territory or conquest. It was a 19-year-old who saw patterns in reality, who broke curses older than nations, who proved neurodivergent minds could save everyone when everyone else failed. And that legacy would outlive them all, a testament to what happened when you stopped trying to fix people and started trying to understand them. The sun set over Ironwood Estate, painting sky in amber and rose. The family that had been broken by curse and grief gathered around a table set with care. They ate together, talked together, existed without fear or pretense. This was victory. Not dramatic kind that made for stories, but quiet kind that made for lives. They had survived, saved others, learned to love imperfectly but truly. Tomorrow they would wake and keep learning, keep growing, keep proving the world was big enough for all kinds of minds, all kinds of strength, all kinds of family. The last Alpha's legacy was written not in stone or blood, but in lives that continued after the curse broke, in children who would grow knowing they were valued for differences rather than punished for them, in slow but steady evolution of a culture finally ready to embrace what it once feared. And Declan Ironwood, 58 years old, disabled veteran, father to a son who changed the world and mate to a woman who had survived hell, stood on his porch watching stars emerge and knew with certainty that his life, for all its failures and regrets, had mattered. That was enough, more than enough. It was everything.